This is a Flat Squirrel Tale, which may not be about collecting, but then again may, about a hirsute man who came from the law and drank Mountain Dew. It tells of his twilight, when the great sales were over and the great cycle sheets long since counted, of how his customers failed him, and of that final night in the empty space beneath the fluorescent lights, of the friends he loved and the gift he gave them, of how he made good on his most frequent threat, and how finally all the clutter his crew complained of was no more. It ends in a Westies warehouse. It begins in a quiet suburban town, one summer evening in the quiet suburban present. Away on Central Avenue, people still sometimes glance up hopefully from their cars, glimpsing a store sign in the sky. But no, it's only a deli, only a massage parlor. Alternate realities closed 1 year ago. This is a Flat Squirrel Tale. Aren't they all? Welcome to My Comic Shop History. I am your host, Anthony Desiato. A little over 1 year ago, I sat down with former Alternate Realities owner Steve Oto and the legendary Bill Maio. As we bid Alternate Realities a fond and emotional farewell, we recorded until about midnight in a mostly empty Alternate Realities, just a few days before the store officially closed. And now, a little over 1 year later, we're back to answer the question, whatever happened to the man behind the counter? So please welcome back to the show, Steve Oto and Bill Maio.
Thanks.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a special episode. We are recording in a new location. We are recording at my apartment. And the reason was, it just, for most of these episodes this season, I've been recording at Spider's Web in Yonkers, Aw Yeah Comics in Harrison, Undiscovered Realm in Hartsdale. But it didn't feel right to do this in another comic book store. It felt like we had to do it someplace else.
Could have broken into alternate.
I still have the key.
There we go.
That would have been fun.
So, Steve, what have you been up to?
Wow, a year in review. Let's see, where do I start? The last day of the store was Tuesday the 30th, June 30th. And I don't know if you remember, but when we closed up, we all went out to Pete's and Brew.
It was amazing. Of course, I remember. It was a select crew.
There was Carolyn, there was Drew, Metalhead, and Mike Capolino.
122.
Yeah, Mike Capolino, who never came out with us for dinner and all that. And I guess when I look back on that one night, because it was a lot of laughing and a good time.
It was a good send-off.
And at the end, I thought to myself, there was that episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, the final episode, where Picard, he came in to play poker with his senior officers, who I guess they met regularly, play poker, but he never joined them. And he's looking at this crew, and he said, "I should have done this sooner." And I think one of the others said, "You're always welcome." And that's why I thought, with Mike Capolino, because he had a very good time, and here we are at the end, and he had missed all those opportunities to join us because he was always invited, but. That was the send-off for the store. Then that was the 30th. Then there was Wednesday the 1st. I decided I'll take 1 day off after 23 years. So I took the day off and did nothing. And then on the 2nd, I went into the Westies warehouse where we have 2 rooms of 23 years of inventory and started going through them box by box.
Are you going to go day by day over the last year?
But I was going through comic book boxes one at a time, alphanumeric order for everything. I have a rough idea what's there. And, and again, for me, the fun is going through these boxes and saying, wow, look at all this great stuff we have, which I know I was always criticized because I never knew where it was. But I knew it was within 1,500 square feet in the store. But to come out and say, wow, look at all this great Silver Age, Bronze Age, full runs of this or miniseries, and I guess that's the collector in me. I just love seeing this stuff and putting it together and putting it in some sort of order. And then gradually I started putting stuff on eBay. I was very slow at first. I think what I basically learned was I would put up maybe a dozen items, and then I'd sit there and I'd wait for them to sell. And I realized I can't do that. It would sell, but it would take time. So now I've got about 100 and close to 200 items up there now.
If people want to find any of your eBay auctions, where should they look?
Well, I've been putting it up under my own eBay account, under Super Oto. But for tax reasons, I have to start using the Alternate Realities eBay account.
Bill, give him the password back. That's why he's not using Alternate Realities. He doesn't have it.
Is it me?
It's Alternate-Realities is the
right,
eBay account. And I know I've got the password someplace.
I tried to hack in at one point. I can't get in.
Yeah.
But they don't have the thing where you can just reset it?
I probably do, but it's like this takes work.
It takes like 2 seconds. You click forgot your password, and they email you a thing to reset it.
Instantaneously.
But the eventual goal is to put a couple thousand items up there. It's worked out well because every morning you wake up and you found out that you look and you see that, I sold this, I sold that. So I just pack it up and then hop in the car, drive over to the post office, drop it off. And people say, well, it's not worth doing it for one item to go to the post office. But really, I was going to be going that way anyway.
Well, I know. Well, there was one thing that you posted on Facebook that you sold. It was a magazine, right? That you sold for $1.
Oh, well, over the years, you buy tons of stuff, and you're buying, say, a milk crate worth of junk because you want only a handful of stuff that's in there. And then you look in the bottom, and there's some Sports Illustrated, there's Newsweek magazine, it's all kinds of junk, which normally I guess you throw into a recycling box. But at the same time, you say, well, this is from 1980 or whatever, so it has to have some sort of interest or value. And what surprised me is that the things that I would have thought was junk, I know you guys always thought it was junk, but even I would have said it was junk. It turned out to be an overnight sale. I look at it and say it's like finding a $1 bill on the floor. If I could do that 30 times a day, I'd pick it up every time. So it's like, why not? Is that or throw it away? But even if it's a quarter, you pick it up. And even with the fees and whatever, it's...
Well, that was my point, I guess. And I know we discussed this when we had lunch recently. But, if you're selling something for $1, by the time you're done with the eBay fees, the PayPal fees, the gas to go to the post office,
Again, the cardboard backing so that it doesn't get damaged is old cardboard that I cut up from the diamond packages. I'm going to the post office in that direction anyway. What do I pay for? Scotch tape and an envelope. Even the wrapping paper where I wrap magazines in it so it doesn't get damaged. That's all free.
And in your defense, the item finds a new home. Is that an element at all for you in this process of?
Oh, it always has been, even in the store. Because I don't know if you remember, I would not sell things to people who didn't deserve it.
Yes, I remember.
There are times. You run into that on eBay also. There's what do we put up there? I put up a statue. I think it was. I think it sells for about $100 or $125, and everybody else who has it is selling it for in that $125 to $175 range. So again, for me, it's all paid for, and I may as well just get rid of it. So I put it up for $99, and I get an offer from somebody for $70 shipped. And I said, well, gee, and everybody else is selling it for this. I think my price is pretty fair. So then he offers $80 shipped. And that's when I discovered the guy's from Singapore. So the shipping would have cost $65. That pissed me off. Because that's when you say, well, I just smash it up and just mail it to him for free. Here's your statue. But, so you run into that. So there's still that irritation. Again, the store, you had 99% of the people who were good people that you enjoyed seeing, and then they would come in and buy their stuff. And then you always had that one guy who just irritated you so much, they said, I'm shutting down the store.
And then eventually you did.
Yeah.
Bill, have you bought anything from Super Oto?
Well, yeah, but he wouldn't let me pay for it. And so early on, you had the Batman animated figures. And
oh, yeah, that's right. The original ones.
I know, and I've always wanted a Poison Ivy, always. And he put it up, and I won it.
Mint on card.
Well, let me just tell you something. I don't want to upset you. But something happened.
Something happened?
Yeah, he gives it to me yesterday. We're at his house, and he's like, well, just if you open this, don't tell me you opened it. Because I told him I was going to rip it open. And it wasn't me. I swear to God, I didn't open that thing. Logan tore it open this morning. He saw it and he's like, is this for me? Before I can even say no.
Putting the blame on your 5-year-old son.
Yeah, that's right. But it was great to play with, let me tell you.
Okay. Because, when you told me you're going to open it, I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to get you a loose one.
But it's great.
Yeah.
I wanted to support you. Is really what it was.
It was mint on card.
I know. Well, now it's no longer.
Well, I guess so. Those of us who still have mint on card ones, the value is a little bit more now.
More. Logan says thanks.
Okay.
Do you have any idea of how many items you've sold since last July, roughly? The thousands at this point, or 8,000,
maybe 500, maybe a little bit.
That's
more.
pretty impressive, actually.
Because I kept the mailing slips. When you print out the postage, it comes in 2 halves. You cut it, and one is a label, and the other one's just the record of it. So I just write down how much I made on it, and just put it in a pile. But it's about the size. I guess about the height of a ream of paper, which is about 500 sheets.
That's pretty impressive.
Well, it's tough because some of them might be $2, $5, $10 items. Others might be a couple $100. So,
why don't you talk about that a little? So you talked about your, selling some of these magazines and different things like that. Do you think the collector in you prohibits you from selling some of the bigger items, some of the more exciting superhero-related stuff, some statues, toys?
I don't know what's keeping me from doing it because I know I've got stuff that will sell very quickly and make a lot of money. But I guess it's not a money thing for me. Mm-hmm. It's keeping me busy, and I'm enjoying going through each one.
So is that the thing? So the things that you haven't sold yet, it's because you do have an attachment?
I guess what it is I like it so much that even though I have my own personal copy or a figure, I can't get rid of it. It's like
That's interesting.
I'll get rid of the stuff that I don't care about and then I found that box of was it Kenner Superpowers from the 70s.
That's right.
And one of them
pretty impressive actually when you posted those.
One was a Doctor Strange, still mint on card. Not Doctor Strange, Dr. Fate, mint on card. And I remember having, I know I've got a loose one, and I also have a carded one that's perfect mint on card. But I just couldn't bring myself to sell this extra one that I had.
I found a dealer. I talked about this on the last episode, but I found a dealer at San Diego Comic-Con, booth 921, Jay's Junk. And he had a bunch of old action figures, including a good amount of the Superpowers ones. I bought the Lex Luthor. They were not in the original packaging. I think he might have had some of those earlier in the show, but by the time I got there, they were gone. I spent a good amount of time going through those booths, and I finally found it. It was great. And it was, a dealer, an older dealer named Jay. I'm like, oh, this is perfect.
I thought those guys were all but extinct at San Diego. So it's nice to know that they're still around.
Yes, yeah. I was surprised, too. Yeah, to find, I figured it would just be guys like Mile High, for example. And they were there as well. But to find, a smaller dealer like this. And he's an educator. He kind of just does, he sells stuff on the side on eBay.
Is he like Bizarro Jay?
Maybe. Well, speaking of Bizarro, so I also talked about this on the last episode, but now that we have you here, Steve, we can revisit it. So, as discussed on the last episode, as posted on the Facebook page, I met your doppelganger, your younger doppelganger, at San Diego Comic-Con. His name is Ben Cito. Great guy. Bears an uncanny resemblance to you. At least I think so. What was your reaction when you saw that photo?
Well, I was shocked. I was actually out to dinner with my wife and a friend of mine from elementary school. And Mike Pellerito, the president of Archie, just sent me the message with a photo. And I looked at it, and I guess it took a second because I thought, is a photo of myself? The kid's hair is darker, and his beard was fuller as opposed to this, what do you call it, Van Dyke that I have. But I looked at the shirt, and I have that shirt. It's a very 1970s shirt, actually. And so that's what kind of freaked us out at dinner. And then later on, we got your post where he posed like me.
His idea, by the way.
Yeah, that was very nice of him.
Very nice. This dude was awesome.
I actually love the I guess the post descriptions or.
Yeah, so I can't put into words how excited I was. So, I always put up a caption with whatever photo I'm posting, and I truly couldn't decide on one, so I put up 4. And one of them was I found a Steve Oto cosplayer That, I guess, fed into my ego. The idea that someone might have seen the documentary and was like, I want to go to Comic-Con like this guy. Obviously not the case, but, it did play there a few years ago, and this is the audience for it. Like, it's not beyond the realm of possibility, but obviously that wasn't the case.
For a split second, I thought it was true. How's that? Does that work?
There you go. That works. What else? I said that I was starting the casting process for the My Comic Shop documentary prequel that I had always wanted to do, and that I just needed to find a young Rich Roney. Oh, one of them was that it was a time-traveling Steve Oto.
Right.
Also very plausible.
Yeah. And that he was going on about how hesitation hurts, and I was like, no, hesitation kills would be better.
I thought it was the best I thought.
And the other one was basically suggesting that he was your love child.
Oh, because...
like, did you ever spend any time... He's from San Francisco. It's like, did you ever spend any time on the West Coast in the 80s?
Well, when was it? I guess it was after... Must have been after law school. Graduated in 81. I spent 81 to 82 in Japan. And then on my way back, I stopped in California before coming back to New York because my roommate from Yale was a medical student at the Stanford. So I got in and we were going to go out, but the jet lag knocked me out and I was unconscious for the whole night.
As far as you
know. Anything could have happened.
Anything could have happened.
There it is.
Yeah. So
I think he might be this kid's father, Steve. He was in the area during the time in question, and he has a period of time that he can't account for.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, but so
if you were at Comic-Con or if you otherwise ran into this young man,
I hope you would have walked around with him for a while.
Would you do something like that? Would you try to impart advice? Would you consider him a younger version of yourself?
No, I guess the first thought that came to my mind was I could commit a crime and disappear, and then they would just grab this guy and put him in the lineup. And they would. And
it's amazing you go to that.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Yeah,
let's rob a bank.
Well, let's say I grabbed the most expensive comic book there, and I just ran, and then security might grab this kid, and the dealer would say, "Yeah, that's the guy," and that it gave me a whole different perspective about the lineup, a police lineup, and how many people get identified and they're the wrong guy.
You know how I knew that it truly was an uncanny resemblance? Because before I hit post, I said to myself, I'm like, someone is going to comment and be like, oh,
this
they don't actually look alike. This is racist. They're just both Asian. Jokingly, hopefully. But that's kind of what I was like, someone's going to write this. And no one wrote it because I think they all saw what a true resemblance.
The second I saw it, I busted out.
That was the highlight of my convention. And I don't know if that's sad or not, but
I think the comment that I almost posted was because we all look alike to you. But yeah, so I'm the one that came up with it.
But he was a great guy. So he has a book. It's called Usagi Jane and the Skull Bunnies, and he has a Kickstarter for it. And I promised him
we should all.
I promised him I would help spread the word about it.
Definitely.
So anyone listening to this, if you like the show, you like Steve Oto, you like the idea that there's a doppelganger of him out there, go kick in a couple bucks to this guy's Kickstarter. He's a great guy, and it looks like it's an interesting project.
Did he have samples with him?
He did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I took the flyer for his Kickstarter. I will share it with you.
Okay. I guess I feel obligated.
Too bad his last name is not a palindrome.
It wouldn't be funny.
Yeah. But Cito, Oto, I mean, it's not like
close.
so far apart.
Well, the funny thing is, when I saw the picture and I thought about you in California, and I was thinking, I can hear you laughing, just cackling about it. And, that's amazing.
So taking it back a little bit, you talked about what you've been up to on eBay, but I kind of want to go back to those, those really final days of the store. And I got to tell you, I shared this with you guys at dinner the other night, and I'll tell it again now. I had a dream. This was last week in the morning.
Oh, this is the bald thing again. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was such a vivid dream. But I was in the car on Central Avenue with Stephanie, and we were stopped at the traffic light right past where the Burger King is. And a little far ahead, like one or two shopping centers before where Alternate Realities used to be, I looked over and I saw AR. And I didn't go inside, but I could see inside perfectly. And it was mostly the same layout, like a little different. I remember thinking like, oh, the Star Wars figures don't go there. But it was still like the same general layout. And I couldn't see anybody inside, but the lights were on, and there was a glass of soda like sitting on the counter, and it was perspiring. And I was like, okay, like this, like someone's there. And so, but we didn't go in. And we kept driving, and we went to the Acropolis Plaza, home of where the former site of Alternate Realities. And we went in, and it wasn't AR, it was Aw Yeah Comics, which, as I mentioned previously, is in Harrison, a new store that opened right after AR closed. And so I go in, and Mark Hammond, the guy who runs Aw Yeah, he's there. He's behind the counter. And he's not too happy that Alternate Realities just reopened a couple shopping centers away. And I'm going nuts. I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't believe the store's back. Like, did Steve do, like, what's going on? And then Bill, you and Drew walk in. Drew Cheskin's been on the show before, former owner of the store. Bill, you're bald.
Yeah, I'm really upset about that.
It's not a great look. It's not a great look. You know, the fact that I've been going gray has been on my mind a little bit, so that might be where the hair thing came in. Anyway, so you come in with that bald dome.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, I saw alternate
Was it like
realities.
a McInerney? Like I had the hair on the front still, or completely bald?
I think you might have had a little in the back.
Oh,
no. A little in the back. But I'm like alternate realities is bad. Like, you know, I was shocked. And you were like, oh, yeah, like the store's open again. Very nonchalant. And I was like really getting worked up over this. And I'm like, well, you know, who did it? And you said it was Will Peterson, the unicorn of Connecticut. So there's a Will Peterson out there. He might be the key to this. But you know what my takeaway was? Who knows what the future would bring? And I think we've, you know, come to terms with the fact that alternate realities isn't here anymore. But I couldn't help but feel a little bit of hope that, you know, maybe one day alternate realities could return in some way. Maybe not with Steve Oto behind the helming the ship, but perhaps somebody else. Just saying.
It's like law school. I don't think I'd wish it on an enemy. You know?
Oh, yeah? You really think so?
Yeah, it's so much.
If one of us said we want to bring the store back, would you give us your blessing?
Oh, sure. I'd give you the stuff in the warehouse.
Is that what this is about? Because I'm in.
All right, let's do it.
But it's a horrible thing to wish on somebody. You had that one podcast from, I guess, last season, which again, unfortunately, I have only listened to the first half. I
want to talk about that though, because I'm happy that you've at least listened to the ones that you have, and I do want to get your reaction. And if there's anything you wish to respond to, please do.
Well, I get the one I started listening to was episode 7, which is about so you want to open a comic book shop or something like that. I guess one of the things I think Bill and I discussed this is that it's interesting to listen to those podcasts, and as you hear people's recollections or the retelling of stories or situations, and having been there, you can say that's not exactly the way it happened. Or that's not exactly what that guy said, and again, it goes back to the whole thing about being an attorney. You know, when you cross-examine a witness, they're convinced that they're telling exactly the truth. I don't want to say lying, but they're convinced of the truth of what they're saying, the veracity. Whereas you get a different witness and a total different perspective. But I guess the thing about the one episode about the business thing was, like, I thought, even as I was listening to them talking about it, I said they just don't get it. It's like the corporal and the sergeant are complaining about the way the captain led the attack, and it's like they have no idea what the captain's thinking of the other information that he had. They're so convinced that they're right, but they really don't know. If they were in that situation, I think it's only when they're in that situation that they suddenly realize, wow, this is harder than I thought, or, oh, now I understand why he did it that way. It's like, again, like politics. It's easy to say, oh, so-and-so is a weak leader, but they have no access to any of the information to understand why did they make this decision, why make this deal, why attack.
In fairness, I mean, a lot of us who were talking on these episodes, we're former owners or former employees, so it's not like we did have some idea, maybe not the full idea.
With San Gregorio and Phil, they're looking at it from a point of view
of an accounting
view or an investment. Do we buy this oil rig or whatever it is? It's not quite the same. Now, granted, you guys have worked at the store, or some of you owned it. Again, I think the guys who owned the store, who had actually a financial stake in it and saw the behind the scenes with the ordering and all this kind of stuff, they had a better sense of how difficult it was. I think, well, Brandon's a good example.
Yeah.
Brandon knows how difficult this business is in all different aspects, not just the retail. But
Did you listen to Drew's episode?
No, I don't think he's that far yet.
Okay.
only for
Drew had some
So,
very good things to say.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere along the way, I'll get to it. It's just I only figured out how to listen to podcasts just recently.
Listen, I'm glad that you've listened to as many as you have. And when you told me that you had listened, I mean, honestly, I didn't know what your reaction would be, but it was, at least that night when we were at dinner and you were telling me about it, it seemed to be generally positive. So that was great.
I enjoy them.
Has there not been anything where you've been like, oh yeah, like that might have been a good idea to do or to try, or do you still feel like you were happy with the way you ran everything?
Yeah, I know that pretty much sums it up. I think looking back, I am happy with the way I ran things. I understand what some of the guys were saying about the frustration. I guess they felt that that my mind wasn't complete. Well, I mean, I guess the whole we talked about earlier about the eBay. It wasn't always about just making money and sales. It was because I enjoyed this hobby and I love these statues and I love these figures. I had appreciation for these old books that I would prefer them to go to a home that will appreciate them as well, not just rip open a carded figure.
Yeah, I really apologize. I was going to keep it in the package.
Throwing poor Logan under the bus. One day he's going to listen to this.
I'm going to send you guys both a picture of Logan playing with it. So
Yeah, well, that's fine.
There's
It's fine.
that.
No, I mean, obviously, toys are meant to be opened and played with. But it's the collector in me can't do it. I just can't do it. I mean, we look around your apartment here, and you've got all these things open. And not that it horrifies me.
you still have the boxes, right?
No, I tossed them. Why am I going to keep them for? No, I have them. They're in the storage unit downstairs. Don't worry. Well, we had lunch recently, and we were talking about the pops, but I explained to you that they're designed to be open and taken out of the package. I mean, you're not compromising the integrity of the packaging by opening them. And in fact, if you put it back in and you fold that flap in, you wouldn't even know it was open.
Are they not taped? No.
No. So, well, anyway, going back to the podcast, I mean, I think we kind of got at this when we did our finale last season, but, I think it was definitely a very interesting and emotional time for all of us and when we were recording these. And again, I'm sure this has been said before, but I guess the fact that the store was was closing kind of fueled a lot of it, of where it's like, well, if he's upset about the store, instead of closing, like, he could have done this. I think that was
Right.
basically the gist of it.
It was so raw for so many people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Manifesting in all different ways, depending on who the person was.
Listen,
Brian O'Day.
Brian
Brian
O'Day. Yeah, look how upset he got in his
Yeah.
episode at the thought that you might not come to the Last Supper, our big final dinner.
I was listening to. Well, I guess I was listening to that one in the car, and I didn't pull over, but I said, I can't believe is he having a heart attack? What was going on with him?
Well, he's he
He's
feels very strongly.
yeah, very emotional. Yeah, but
He's a passionate guy, and I mean, in his defense, it's like at that time,
Right.
the thought of you not coming was at least somewhat believable. I mean, understandably, like
We didn't
you
know.
were going through a
Yeah,
lot of
nobody
stuff,
knew.
but it's like nobody knew.
yeah. Well, I guess because I didn't RSVP. Is that what it was?
No, I
Is
don't
it-
remember that.
Probably, yeah. I think maybe you did.
But I guess in my own defense, I figure like I had a lot of things going on at the time. I was shutting down a business. I guess I was even trying to sell the store to the last minute, and
But poor Brian, he just wanted to make sure you were going to be there.
yeah, well,
Speaking of the Last Supper, so fantastic event. I know when I did the Christmas special in between seasons, we talked about it a little bit. But Steve, what was your impression of that night?
oh, the one at the pizza.
Yeah, what did that mean to you?
Oh, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, again, it's close to the end of the store, and I guess after the store is when it dawned on me that the store did have such an influence on a lot of people. Again, I think I might have mentioned that as in the last month, I guess, people started that I hadn't seen in years started coming by to say, sorry, the store is going to close. And, some people I hadn't seen in 20 years popped in to say, this was a great place. I just enjoyed being here. And then when the younger ones who you've watched grow up, I mean, guys who are younger than you, they're coming in and they're off to college now and such, but they would come in and just, say thank you and want to take a picture together. And I didn't even realize that I was that kind of an influence on some of these guys.
Yeah, in my little preamble, I said about the the friends you loved and the gift you gave us. I mean, at the Last Supper, you actually did bestow some physical gifts, which was incredibly generous and very cool. But, I think ultimately the gift is, is each other and the community and the fact that we had a place to go where we forged these friendships. I mean, it's a tremendous gift and one that, we're all extremely grateful for.
Yeah.
As for the supper, though, Bill, do you want to talk about the shirts that you had made?
Well, I mean,
not that you had made, that you made.
Well, I mean, I got into screen printing recently, and I forgot how it actually came about that let's do some shirts to commemorate the closing. Leah, my ex-wife, and I had redone the logo to do the cracked logo that would be in line with the way Anthony has branded the AR logo with the my comic shop documentary and
gotta keep that branding consistent.
I mean, it looks good, right?
Yeah. And
so I think you sent me the font, which is like a crackle font, and we did the back, and we actually discussed several times what the back of the shirts would say. And
I have to give credit to Mike San Gregorio.
Came up with "We Are Alternate Realities."
We were recording the Ultimate Kooky Quartet episode, and there was a little bit of alternate realities talk, and most of it I cut out because it wasn't really what the episode was about. But he had said that at one point. I just kind of tucked that away, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of perfect.
And then it worked out really well.
Yeah, it really did.
And so I set up like a mini T-shirt manufacturing, I don't even know, plant in my garage, where I was doing like 10 shirts at a time. I think Leah and Logan thought I was insane, but I came to that dinner with a duffel bag full of shirts for everybody. It was great.
And Steve, you got a special shirt, right?
I think I just ordered a lot of them.
No, but didn't get anything special.
No. But wasn't your shirt blank?
Oh yeah, I mistakenly gave you a blank shirt. I forgot all about that.
It was a special
so
blank.
tired.
It was a special blank variant.
That's right.
There's only one.
Oh man.
But when I was packing for Comic-Con, I brought basically all of my alternate reality shirts. That's what I wore when I was there, and I put the picture of all of them as I was packing. I put it on the Facebook page, and a couple people asked, like, "Are these for sale?" and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe we have to do another run of shirts.
We
or
could
something.
do some shirts.
Well, somewhere in the warehouse there's a case of them, different colors, different sizes. I have no idea where.
Was there anything else about that night that stood out to you, or anything else that you wanted to share
You
about
gave
it?
such a nice speech too. I remember you had everybody crying.
Anything? I don't know. I guess I was just touched that so many people showed up, and
We had about 45. Like it was
good.
Huge group.
It was again just that the realization that there's so many good people that were part of my life. That how lucky I was. Just to go back to what the past year has been, I've obviously we're in Westchester County, so when you go to Costco or when you go to a supermarket, you run into different people who are shopped at the store. And it's always nice to see these people. I mean, some of them, like we talked about Oleg. I still order some stuff for Oleg. So
Oleg, who's Oleg?
Oleg is our Star Wars fanatic, I guess.
Can I do the accent, or would that be inappropriate? Because I really want to so badly.
It's your show. I feel like you can.
I know. Sometimes I'm not the best judge, though. I need a ruling.
I would say no. I'll parent you.
Yeah.
All right.
Oleg is just a Russian gentleman, loves Star Wars, always ordered all the statues that Gentle Giant put out. We ordered it for him, and even to this day, even though I guess he might be retired, but he still stays in touch with me. I still order things for him, and every maybe 6 months or so, I guess we'll get together in the parking lot of the store, and I'll have a few Star Wars things for him, and he'll just pay me, and we talk for a little bit. All of a sudden, people just pointing at you and going, "Alternate realities," and I don't know their names, and you would chat for a little bit. And
Do you ask them their name, or you try to?
No, we just chat a little bit, and just kind of fill them real quick with. Telling them, I'm much more relaxed. Everybody tells me I'm happier now.
That's definitely something I've observed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Bill, I know,
Absolutely. I mean, I'm
you've
not
only
around
been
you
in
enough,
town,
but
a couple times over the past year, but what's your observation?
It's like you're a different person. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see. Like, I'm glad that,
absolutely.
We
all knew this was you inside, but, you had so much, the weight of the world on your shoulders, really.
Do you feel that?
It took me about 6 months before I could finally relax. I guess it was finally around January or early February where I could just breathe. And Anne and I actually took our honeymoon, which we didn't have a honeymoon when we got married. So we went on a cruise. And
This guy went on a cruise. Can you believe that?
I know.
yeah,
It's not even
it was. Again, it took a couple of days on the ship before I finally relaxed. But all of a sudden, because I'm just not used to just sitting there with my feet up and reading Sherlock Holmes short stories. It's not in me to take that kind of time to do that. But I actually read a lot, and I don't know, what can I tell you? It was so relaxing, so good that I said, this is the best. And then we came back, and I mean, it's like, again, life goes on. You still have all the problems you have to worry about, paying the taxes and the insurance and all the other things that real world grown up stuff. But
without that constant stress
yeah,
of the store, it's
because
better.
now I'm an old man. You know, now where I used to work on the order form till 2:00 in the morning. Now I go to bed at 10:30. I get tired at 9:30.
What time do you get up in the morning?
Usually about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
All right, but that's more sleep than you had been getting.
Well, I'm getting twice as much. I was getting 3.5 hours of sleep.
Which would make anybody cranky.
You know, but now I've got 7 hours of sleep. It's crazy.
Well, going back to Bill's question about, are there certain things that you're not selling because you feel the attachment to them, and you spoke to that. I guess one thing I've always been curious about, and I feel we must have spoken about it at some point over all these years, but when you had the store specifically, did you consider that part of your collection, or was there a clear divide in your mind between what was yours and what was the store's?
There was a clear divide.
Okay.
Because let's say a Catwoman statue came out and we ordered 6 of them, well, one of them I kept. So the other 5 were the stores. It didn't matter if it was the last one that we were selling because I already had one. I guess the reason I'm not putting my good stuff up is, I guess the thing is, I've had other dealers come to the warehouse and look at it, and they said, "You're never going to get rid of this. I'm not going to live long enough to get rid of this. There's just so much." So my thinking is that I'll try to sell whatever I can that I don't really care about, that I'm not attached to. When the time comes to sell the rest of my personal stuff, I know it's all great stuff, not just good, just great. You know, the highest quality, the grades, the unopened things. It's just irreplaceable. So if I'm not alive to sell it, at least when my son gets rid of it, he knows that this is the better stuff that he shouldn't be giving away.
If it does take the rest of your lifetime to sell what's in those warehouses, is that something that would be acceptable to you? Like, you would enjoy just taking the time to do that, or is that an idea, a prospect that
well,
is unappealing?
We actually talked about it yesterday. If somebody were to walk in and say, "I'll give you $100,000 for everything," I'd say sure. And
I thought you were going to say no.
No, I'd say sure. I mean, because again, it's all that stuff in the warehouse is store stuff, primarily, and the stuff I have at home. If you came in and said, "I'll give you another $50,000 on top of that," that I might not say yes to, because I think it's worth more than that. But to get rid of the warehouse stuff and be done with, I don't mind saying I'm going to spend the next 20 years. Maybe it's keeping me alive to do that. But I don't mind spending the next 20 years putting these things up and selling them.
Steve, earlier you mentioned running into former customers at various places. I was just at Oh Yeah Comics a couple days ago, and I ran into, I think he was number 14, Chris DiGiorno.
I'm actually forgetting the numbers.
I might be mixing up the name and number, but in any event.
It's a good thing you're forgetting the numbers. That's a good sign.
But, I hadn't seen him in, well over a year, even before the store had closed. And we had a nice chat for a couple of minutes. And it's funny, there was this little moment where I said to him, I was like, "Oh, is this where you're getting your books now?" And he goes, "Yeah." And there was just this little look of sadness. And we went on to talk about how great Oh Yeah is. But it's still that, and I was wearing my alternate reality shirt, and he looked, and he was like, there was just that look. And, so I've been going to pretty much it's taken 3 stores to kind of like make up alternate realities. And even then it's still not the same. But I get my pops at Undiscovered Realm. I get my weekly books at Spider's Web, and I get trades at Oh Yeah Comics pretty much. And all the stores are great. It's like, I like going to them. Paul, Chris, Mark, they're all great guys. Couldn't be more friendly, couldn't be more welcoming. I've done podcasts there. But it's still, it's not my comic shop. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been spending time at other shops as well.
Well, I pop in to say hello, and, I guess as far as like keeping my feet in the business, is that the expression? Keep my feet wet? I don't know. There are times when I'll talk to them about maybe ordering something together, something that's like too big. I'll still look at comic book collections, and I might not necessarily need it, but or want it, but maybe they would, so I'll let them know about it.
I think I could be wrong, but I feel, Bill, I'm going to get your take. I feel like there's a third career act that Steve has in him. He was a lawyer first. That was Act 1. Then he owned the store. That was Act 2. And I feel like there's a third act beyond the eBay's great. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like there's something more that he still has to explore. What do you think?
Some philanthropy? What are we talking about?
He hates people too much for that.
What are we talking about? I don't know.
But I don't know. Like, I don't even just like dealing in large collections or brokering sales or something. I feel it.
Certainly utilizing your experience for something. You could definitely be a consultant if there was ever such a thing for comic book stores.
Yeah, but I guess I like to give my advice for free.
Yeah.
So I had a guy contact me. One of
it.
our customers contacted me. He has a Walking Dead #1 that was graded at 9.4. And I had mentioned to him a long time ago that if you're going to sell it, let me know. But he actually wanted a little too much for it than I thought it was worth, because I think he was asking $2,000, and I said, well, maybe a 9.6 might sell for that $1,800 range. So 9.4 I thought was only worth maybe $1,400. So we went back and forth. I gave him some advice on how he might be able to sell it and maybe even get closer to what I would have offered, because I said I would have offered you $1,000 only because I knew him. I guess if it had been somebody who walked into the store, I would have probably offered maybe $700 or $800 for a $1,400 book. But
it's that back and forth, though, that you just mentioned is what you liked. You always enjoyed when people would come in with a collection and you would educate them about grades and the value of the books.
I guess I like to think I was in a unique position that I didn't care if I got the collection or not, because in one sense I had already owned exactly all this stuff before and sold it. And sometimes you've owned it 2-3 times and sold it. So when somebody comes in with it, it's like, well, it might be their pride and joy, but it didn't mean anything to me anymore. And it's like, if they wanted to sell it and the price was right, I'd buy it. If they didn't want to sell it, I wasn't going to lose sleep. And I guess that put me in sort of an advantageous position as far as negotiations for price.
Right.
Because it's like,
if you're willing to walk away, it's always the best position to be in.
So,
but maybe, like an advisor to people looking to sell collections, because a lot of people
open a comic book store.
You should open a comic book store. I think
you could do that. Been there, done that. But I don't know. I feel like you would enjoy that, because like a lot of these people, they don't know what they have, and they don't want to get taken advantage of. And you were very honest and had a lot of integrity in dealing with people who came in with their stuff. You never ripped anybody off. Not every dealer out there is like that. So people might need someone on their behalf.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to do that.
No, I don't know. I feel like this is an opportunity.
No, it's.
Would you be looking to do anything else, or you're content?
I am content.
You have your lunch circuit as well, Bill. I don't know if you follow the Alternate Realities Facebook page, but Steve's always posting photos of him having lunch with somebody.
Yeah, again, it's a nice thing where you can get together with different guys from either other comic store people.
We had a great lunch yesterday with Jay Mizell.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Again, to me, those kind of things are very relaxing. I guess the difference is that, Bill comes into town. We haven't seen him in a long time, but it's almost like we saw him last week.
I felt bad. I forgot that you came in for Christmas, because I saw him for lunch. I'm like, I haven't seen you in a year. And he's like, I think I was here for Christmas. And I'm like, no, you weren't. It's been a year.
Yeah. What other things? I guess since store closed, got a puppy. That's been a big thing for me, because, when... After Dad died, I brought Sheba to the store all the time, so that dog was with me 24 hours. And when she died, I was heartbroken, cried a lot. But I've always wanted to get a puppy again. And Ann said, well, now that you don't have the store and you can spend the time with the dog, so we finally got one. That dog's with me all the time. That's why she never gets very excited to see me, all the time. Bill came over to the house. She's going crazy. My son comes to the house. She goes crazy.
She's a great dog.
Yeah, she's a good girl, but she just gives me that funny look. Give me a cookie. That's all I'm good for. Pick up my poop. But
so life is good.
But life is good, and do
you think you'll ever miss the store?
I don't miss the business of it. It was a lot of work. I mean, I'm looking at how Facebook puts up memories from 5 years ago and all that, and I'm looking and I said, Jesus, every post I put on was working on the order form, it's 2:00 in the morning. I've just finished this Marvel section. Got to get up in 4 hours.
You had it. There was a period where the posts were more romantic when you first got together with Anne. There was a whole run of those.
Well, 7 years ago is when we reunited. And that, I mean, we were dating in the 70s, and then 35 years goes by, and I guess because of Facebook, we reconnected. And then it was almost to the day, actually. 7 years ago, we had a reunion for our music camp because she was in the drama department. I was a violinist. And then I guess you can say 6 years ago to the day is when I proposed to her, and our 5th wedding anniversary is coming up Friday. So
happy anniversary!
Thanks. It's just amazing how time flies, and again, life is good. She's perfect for me.
And you think about everything that came out of this. You starting the comic shop and shepherding this for so many years. What precipitated is all the friendships, the love, and everything else. One of the periods of the store I don't know so much about, but again, I rewatched the documentary not too long ago, was you and Gene. And, Gene's talking at his own store at the time, right? What was Gene's store's name?
Comics Plus.
Comics Plus, right? And he was talking about, him reminiscing of, 9 o'clock, and he's just eating stuff from A&P, waiting for people to come in. Tell me about that part of the store, because I wasn't part of the store back then.
The first year.
Like, how did you get through it? How did you decide that this was worthwhile to keep going, putting money in?
By the end of the first year, it was going to just collapse, just close. But I put so much money into it because I was the cash behind it that I said I can't. I thought it had great potential, and I couldn't give up. But for the others, they couldn't keep it going. They didn't want to keep it going because it was just too much of a drain.
And so you bought them out at that point?
I bought out Kevin. No, what did I buy? I bought out Kevin, and Brandon came in and bought out Gene. I guess it took a year to dig out of the hole that we had from the first year. Because I think I might have talked about it. We were behind on all the distributors' bills, and I had to call all these different distributors and make some sort of deal to send them a little extra cash each time with each new bill. Until we finally, it took a year to get out of that, and I didn't want to go through that ever again.
Like, imagine if in the first year, like, Steve decided to call it quits with these other guys.
That's what I'm saying.
Amazing.
We would
an alternate reality.
Never be here.
Yeah.
Crossroads, like Rich Roney.
Tell the story. We've told it before.
Oh, we told
That's
this.
great.
But let's get your perspective on it. Your first meeting with Rich Roney.
1972, I guess it was. I was 10th grade, White Plains High School, and Rich Roney had just moved from Hinsdale, Illinois, and here's this new kid who I think he went to a Catholic school because when he was called on, he suddenly stood up to speak. And everybody just turned to look at him because
so Rich Roney, right?
It's completely Rich Roney, 100%.
But at that time, I was a big anti-smoker. I just didn't like anything to do with cigarettes, which of course is a great irony because of Amanda, who was a chain-smoking alcoholic.
Former girlfriend.
Yeah, but boy, smoked all the time like a chimney. But
maybe that's the next season of the podcast, like the many loves of Steve Oto.
But
a great movie.
With Rich, it's like he just, I guess, I don't remember if he said, "Hi, I'm Rich Roney," but I think
probably
my first would have been, "Hey, hey."
Hey.
I don't think the people listening would understand that, but Rich, whenever he calls,
people, Rich has been on the show a few times. People have spoken of it. People know Rich Roney.
But yeah,
as much as anyone can know Rich Roney.
Every time Rich calls and leaves you a message on your phone, it's a hey, Rich, hey,
it's Rich.
Hey, Steve, it's Rich. But I don't do it well. But actually, everybody who knows him understands that part. But anyway, so the first thing I said to this guy was not, "Hi, how are you? Or welcome to White Plains." It was like, "You're not a smoker, are you?" And he says, "Oh no." But to this day, he says, "I should have said, got a match?" And I always talk about certain crossroads of time, different realities that could have happened. If he had said that he was a smoker, then he and I would have been friends, and you guys would never have known him. And it was one of those things that really made a difference. And because he said, "No, I don't," we became best friends, and to this day, here we are. God, what are we, 60? I've known him 3/4 of my life. And, he's my best friend. It's just amazing. It's one of those things where it's just...
It's true. I mean, you created the store with the other guys, but, you kept it going. You created and fostered an environment for us to hang out and become friends and all that. But, yeah, I mean, we really, can't overstate Rich's importance to this either. I mean, as has been discussed on the show before, oftentimes dinners happen because Rich is coming in, and that's what sort of galvanizes everybody, and we get together. So, yeah, had he said, yeah, I just finished one, again, we might not be sitting here.
A lot of stars aligned over the last 20 years, But it was all you. Then you could have walked away.
Well,
2 other people walked away.
It was tough.
Thanks for not walking away.
That final night before you went to the dinner, I guess a couple of things transpire that I want to ask you about. First, you got the sign down. The altar. What went into that?
Which one?
We
the
had
the big alternate realities.
Let me tell you something. It was furious that last couple hours. I think we finished up a day early, I want to say, based on your timeline schedule when you had to be out of the store. And when we got to the very end, and it looked like we were about to have one carload left, I got that letter outside so fast. I borrowed it from Gregorio next door, said, I need a ladder. And he had a ladder, and we shot up that ladder in 2 seconds. I started sliding that sign out, because I knew that was the last thing that had to come out. I almost killed myself trying to get that sign out. Do you remember that? Joe Marsiglia.
I wasn't there.
Oh, my gosh. Joe Marsiglia had to come to my rescue. I underestimated the weight of that sign.
It was awkward because it's so long.
Yeah, and I was really high up.
It's like 10 feet long.
And so he got on another ladder, and he helped me down with it. And that was one of the last things we loaded into your car.
Yeah. I still have it.
Yeah, where is it?
It's in the garage.
In the garage?
Yeah.
And Bill, you have the neon signs,
I have
right?
the 3 neons, comics, cards, and stuff in my office.
That's cool.
I look at it every day. It's great.
That is really cool.
It's really good.
Do you light it? Does it light up?
No, I mean, I could. I cut them in such a way that all the
just...
connections can be reconnected.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to bust up the counter.
I know.
Whatever.
We had a problem with cutting it up, actually. We didn't have the proper tools.
We were each going to get a piece of the counter. And then, Steve, for you, because I did this with the house. I did it with AR, I think the day before that. And I just did it with my apartment. I'm selling it, and I close tomorrow. And yesterday I went by thanks. But yesterday I went by just to take one last look at it and, just kind of take it all in and say adios. Did you have a similar moment at the end of the store before you left for the last time? Did you take a moment to yourself?
Not really, because I kept going back. I was supposed to meet the landlord's grandson to give him the keys and all that, and he didn't show up, so I ended up giving it to the deli. A couple of days later, I was supposed to meet the grandson at the store to do a walkthrough, and he didn't show up.
Steve, you're killing me. Tell me about how you had a really deep, profound, emotional moment before you said your last goodbye to your home of 23 years.
But I still don't. I still go back there, and I see this. I look in there because I've heard rumors that there are rats running around inside. I think about maybe I'll just open the door with the key and just leave it open and see what other animals might walk in. But I don't. But that screws up the other stores, and I don't want to do that. So it's.
I remember taking a picture. Right at the
there's
very
a
end.
great shot of you in the middle of the store. The empty
Drew,
store beneath
Drew
the fluorescent lights.
Yeah, Drew took that photo for me, and I look at that photo all the time. And we're looking at this photo, Anthony, that you have on this medal, and that's the photo that I want printed on metal in my apartment. It's like it means so much, and it's like the saddest memory too at the same time.
I mean, again, on Facebook, a lot of people say they drive by the store and they always look just in case, just like
case.
Your dream.
Yeah.
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 Hopefully
I guess
they won't find me bald inside.
Yeah, hang on to that hair, man. That's a nice head of hair. You want to keep that. Well, I guess maybe the better question then is when you do go to the shopping center now, Steve, what do you feel when you see the empty store? And when I ask, I mean, in all seriousness, I'm not necessarily looking for you to say that you feel bad or sad when you see it. Maybe you feel good. You're proud of what you accomplished something.
You have to understand. You walk into that warehouse room. And it's all set up with the back issue bins and steel shelving and all that kind of stuff. It's a little alternate realities. I even had the signs that says "Do not touch."
Who are those signs for?
I don't know. It's just out of sentimentality. I said, "Oh, look, I have one of these signs." It's
so great.
Yeah.
Steve, we've spoken a lot in the documentary and your various podcast appearances. Other people have talked about them. The Otoisms. these sayings that you live by, the wisdom of SCO. And I'm just curious, now you've had more time on your hands, have you developed any new ones? Before you answer that, though, let me say, I continue to derive inspiration from them. Particularly, one of them really came in handy and saved me. Always have a backup for the backup of the backup. One of the worst things that could happen to a podcast host happened to me earlier this season, where I was sick. And that in and of itself is not great, but whatever. I lost my voice. I was hoarse. It was terrible. Right before I had to record an episode. So I couldn't do it. But I had the live episode from Undiscovered Realm Comic-Con, and I also had conversations that I recorded at East Coast Comic-Con. So between the two of them, I figured, all right, I could cobble something together, and I ended up releasing the Undiscovered Con episode, and everything worked out fine. But I was like, it's a good thing I listened all those years. He said, always have a backup for the backup of the backup. So I'm curious, any new ones? No.
I don't even carry singles anymore.
Oh, you're killing me, man.
No, it's just a whole new
It's
life
a
for me.
different Oto.
It's Oto.
No,
This is ultimate Oto.
Again,
Step aside, Ben Cito.
I used to carry rolls of change in my bags, and I used to carry, $40 in singles in my pocket and $5 fives and tens. And I also had it in my wallet, and I had it in the cash box underneath the register, and tons of it in a bag in the back in the safe. And then I must have had a couple $100 in singles in the safe at home, so that I wouldn't have to go to the bank all the time. But yeah, I always have backup. And then the other day I had no singles. I had to borrow $2 from Rich
At dinner for the tip. Yeah.
So
well, all right. So if not new Otoisms, then maybe previous Otoisms that you don't need anymore.
yeah, you don't need a backup for a backup or a backup anymore.
Backups are for chumps. Otoisms 2.0.
The other day it was raining. You had no umbrella, and you weren't running.
I never
Well, that's
run.
consistent.
I never
Those are
run.
consistent.
Yeah.
Run.
You see, now I want to go through the list of Otoisms.
Yeah, I don't have them on lock.
well,
like you
no,
guys
like
have
do
'em.
the ultimate version.
They all still work. It's just that I don't have new ones because I think the original ones kind of cover everything you need to know.
I don't know. You don't have backups anymore. He probably had an umbrella in the car and he just forgot it. He probably wraps gifts now. He unwraps his DVDs, takes them out of the shrink wrap. He's probably doing it all backwards now.
Otoisms. As bad as this is for the industry, you don't need to buy Blu-rays anymore.
I mentioned earlier, the various comic shops that are in play here. It's funny, Aw Yeah specifically opened very shortly after AR closed. And I actually went there and sold them a good bunch of my trade paperbacks. And they also have a lot of my statues that they're selling for me on consignment. But it was so weird because I went there before they opened. So they were still getting everything set up. And you had given them a lot of the old
Showcases.
store
Yeah.
fixtures and stuff.
Yeah.
And in particular, the chairs.
I sat on the chair today.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, and all yeah.
When I went there for that first time,
I
and I was
sat
sitting
right in
there
the
on the
chair.
chair selling them my trade paperbacks, and I'm like, this is so weird. But speaking of Aw Yeah, but the reason I brought that up, I suspect you've probably heard this, but apparently UPS Jimmy.
I ran into him today. Oh yeah.
I want to get your take on this, but he's one of our former customers. One of the loudest people you're ever likely to meet. I don't think I could ever have him on the podcast because I think he'd blow my ears out.
He'll scream.
But from what I've heard, UPS Jimmy feels that because you seem to visit there often enough. He considers it that you've kind of given Aw Yeah your blessing, that you have kind of
We had this conversation
anointed
today.
Aw Yeah as the successor to Alternate Realities, and that any former Alternate Realities customer
Traitor.
who goes to Spider's Web or anywhere else is a traitor. What do you guys feel about this?
I mean, I heard this today, so go ahead, Steve.
Jimmy's just been a little enthusiastic and a little.
Let's talk about Jimmy for a second, because we talked a little bit earlier about how the store affected people, and Jimmy helped us move out at one of the last days. He helped us move. It was, I think, the Saturday of the dinner, and so it was me, Steve, Jimmy, and the Crown Prince, who was helping move out that day. And we were moving the back issue bins, the physical bins, into the storage. And at several points during that day, Jimmy broke down in tears in a very, very emotional way.
Yeah, I remember you coming into the store and saying, "Jimmy's outside, he's crying."
I didn't know how to handle it.
Oh.
And later on, we were talking about how the store meant so much to each of us. And he said to me in no uncertain terms something like, I don't want to get into a pissing match with you, Bill, but the store meant a lot to me, or something like that. And and that was when it first hit me. Like, obviously other people feel it very strongly, and Jimmy especially. And so it's not surprising to me that he really has latched on to the store that you yourself would have been, the one that you go to most regularly.
Side note, by the way, I really wrestled with whether or not to do this episode, because I was so pleased with and proud of our finale last season. I thought that
I listened to it recently and I bawled crying. I really did.
Yeah.
So many memories came right back.
It was really a moment that we
a good
captured. And so I was kind of like, I just kind of want to leave it on that note. Like, I don't want to, but I'm glad that we did this. It's been great to catch up. But yeah, I did want to ask you, Bill, because you devoted that entire week to, helping and really running the, the final move out. What did it feel like when you were done?
Well, it was very bittersweet, right? Because on the one hand, we had a goal. A goal in mind was to get this out before the end of the month, so Steve didn't have to pay an extra month's rent, and so that was always on my mind. So it was the rush to get that done. And Steve had commented on that several times throughout the week. It's like, you're going to kill yourself running like this. But I knew that we had we didn't have much time to spare at the end.
Well, the funny thing about that was, like, Bill would be there before we got there in the morning, and he'd come back in the middle of the night after we were ready to leave.
Constantly, I was setting up for the next morning.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, so there was that emotion running through my mind, but it also was very bitter. Not in a bad way, but certainly with a eye towards longing. Gonna miss this place. This place has meant so much to me throughout my entire life. I think the years that I worked at the store were easily some of the best years of my life. From the laughter, the friendships, to everything else, and to close that door for the last time, it was heartbreaking.
I'll give you the key. You can go back and open
it.
You can open it tonight and close it again.
But you know what? I revisit so many things in my life, right? Like, so I'll drive through my old neighborhood. I'll do a lot of things. The closest I'll get to the store now is just driving past it. I don't think I can get close enough to it. It's a powerful presence. I almost don't want. So moving away 12 years ago when I went to graduate school, I kind of made my peace with not being at the store every day. And so in my mind, it still exists, right? I don't have to think about it every day because it's like, oh, well, it's in New York and I'm in New Mexico now. And so it's still there. But, it's like when worlds collide. If I were to see it now, I don't think I can handle it.
I mean, I echo those sentiments. But it's funny, as much as I miss the store, I guess the storyteller in me kind of feels it's fitting. Like, the store had a finale.
It had a good finale.
And we got to be part of it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
glad I came up for it at the end. I think we had discussed many times in the months leading up to it whether or not I was going to actually go to fly up for that. And when I showed up, there was a week to go before closing. And I had a conversation with you the week before. And you had said something like, well, when you show up, all we're going to have to do is paint. And I got off the plane. We came right to the comic shop, and it looked just like the comic shop.
It's funny because Oto is not known for his optimism.
Yeah, I should have just left it there. Right?
What, as is?
Yeah. Let the landlord take care of it.
You can tell us that now? We did a lot of work in that week. Jesus Christ. We need Anthony Huff or Humphrey.
Yeah, we... Either I'm going to cut this or we're going to explain it because we can't just leave it at that. Actually, you know what? Maybe this is a generational thing. Let me ask Steve.
Perfect.
Right? We mentioned Rich Roney earlier, the legendary Rich Roney. You met him in high school. He didn't smoke. You became best friends.
Stood up every time he answered a question.
A couple of times he's used the word hump to refer to basically like
hard
doing
work.
hard work.
You guys really humped today.
Yeah, you guys humped today. Is that a thing?
This is an expression.
It is?
Is it?
Oh, you've never heard?
No.
Oh, okay. Then it is a generational thing.
Okay.
I mean,
it's quite bizarre.
No, you should know that they always call it Wednesday Hump Day, right?
Well, yeah, we know that
because that's
well, it's like getting over the hump.
Getting over that hump and humping. It's just all that hard work. But you guys have dirty minds.
Yes.
All right, fair enough.
Oh.
I mean, going back to the title of this episode, whatever happened to the man behind the counter? For any listeners out there, or for any customers who haven't seen you in a while and they're wondering, like, how's Steve? What's Steve? Is there anything you would like to say to them directly?
Gosh, I want to just say, and he lived happily ever after. But I guess if this is my opportunity to say thank you to all those customers and the good people, and it's, honored to have met you. I'm glad that you came to shop with us, hang out with us. I guess, even with my closing the store, a lot of you expressed your good wishes for me, and I do appreciate that. Not that I'm dying, but I can look back and say it was a good run. And, everybody had a piece of it, except for the crappy guys. But everybody else, you made it all worthwhile. I'm glad I did it. I don't regret doing it. I wouldn't do it again. But it wasn't so bad.
I don't even know what to say. It's not the Steve Oto I know.
Such a softie in his retirement.
Right, exactly. It's very nice to hear you say that.
Happy Steve.
Happy Steve.
I guess the last thing I would say, just building off of that, it was more than just a good run. I think it was the best run.
Mm-hmm. I can't imagine many stores end like this. This was a good ending.
It only would have been better if he lit that match and walked away. I'd be like, can you believe what he did? Well, Steve, I'm glad that this last year has treated you well. I'm glad that the closing of the store was the right move for you, and happy to see you the way you are now.
I quit Mountain Dew. That's a big thing.
Oh, I got to change the preamble then. I said it's about a hirsute man who came from the law and drank Mountain Dew.
Basically,
set the record straight.
Yeah, well, let's see, I turned 60 in the middle of June, and when you call a doctor for a checkup, they're always booked up, so they couldn't see me until towards the end of August. So I said, okay, I'll turn 60. I'm going to stop drinking Mountain Dew so I can fool the doctor and get my sugar levels down. So I actually stopped drinking. I was probably about 3 cans a day. And I haven't had, like Mark, who's given up soda, and a lot of other people I've talked to, who decided just to stop drinking. And it wasn't as hard this time as it's been in the past.
I don't know. I had 2 from the Oto stash yesterday.
Yeah,
I seemed a little jealous.
I enjoyed watching you drink those. Yes, but
you want some ice with that?
But
sometimes after you've been humping all day, you just need a nice cold Mountain Dew.
But I miss it. But I'm going to try to see how long I can go through and get through without having a soda again. I mean, I don't miss Coke or Pepsi or anything like that. Never drank ginger ale or orange soda. It's just Mountain Dew is all I cared about.
Well, you got to give me something better to go out on than soda preferences.
Quite frankly, I guess, what happened to me after the store closed.
Don't be a flat squirrel.
Drink Mountain Dew.
Because of the stress of the store and no sleep and eating crap foods, it's probably bad internally. But after the store was gone and I didn't have the stress and I could eat normally, or I guess, and I gained 20 pounds. I was up to 190 something. And so after I stopped drinking the dew, which has been, about 6, 7 weeks now, I think I lost about 7 pounds. I haven't done any exercise. I just don't drink soda, and I lost all this weight. So I may be able to fool the doctor after all.
And that, kids, is whatever happened to the man behind the counter. Thank you both. Don't be a flat squirrel.
What a way to end. Yeah.